Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to another ULD Care video interview, the first for 2021. And today, I'm really pleased to be focusing on technology, which is really these days moving extremely fast. So it's a very interesting subject. And joining me, I have Scott Sangster, who is VP Sales for Descartes, and Wes Tucker, who is COO for the Western Hemisphere for ACL Airshop. Welcome, gentlemen. Thank you very much for joining me. Technology is the name of the game these days. It's been sitting stagnant for so many years. Now it's hard to keep up. And what I'd like to do is pose a couple of questions to the two of you. And the first, Scott, if you'd like to take this one first, is what are the current technology developments being developed by yourself? And how do you see these coming to fruit in today's world of air cargo?
Okay, very good. Well, thanks first of all for having us, Bob. And for the first question, and maybe just to sort of take a step back, and when we talk about ULD tracking, ULD management, et cetera, there's kind of three critical components to the delivery of a service in that area. From a technology perspective, there's the software, the network, and the hardware associated with that. So if we just break those down a little bit, from a software perspective, we've done significant amounts of advancements in our user interface for the presentation of this data to our customers, adding additional data elements to the components that we've been tracking historically, as well as enhancing our APIs to be able to exchange this data with other applications and integrate it with someone's back office, like ACL Airshop has done for their customers. Then we've also taken the software to the next level with mobile device integration, and that is both for the collection of data as well as for the presentation layer to the end customer. And I'm sure Wes will talk about a little bit further what they've done on their side from that technology perspective. Most of the advances that we've probably been focused on in the last year have been around the network as well. Obviously, having a global network is critical for ULDs flying around the world, and being able to keep track of them. It's not very usable for someone to only have a visibility into 50% of their network. They want to see where everything is entirely. So we've invested a lot in expanding that network. Some of it is basic with the deployment of readers through our partners, such as carriers, ground handlers, airport authorities, et cetera, to build the infrastructure of the network. But then also a change in technology behind that is our implementation of our open network architecture, or we sometimes call it interoperability, which allows multiple different tags and devices to be read by our readers around the world and expand usage of the network. So in these situations, somebody can bring a best for purpose design tag for themselves to the environment, have that run through the network and collect data. We realize that it's not efficient for customers to, number one, provide the physical infrastructure for a network, but then necessarily have to standardize around single tags as well. So that basically one of the ways in which we use technology to expand the market and allow more people to play. To the third part, which is the hardware component. And maybe at this point, I'd ask Wes to talk about some of the joint efforts that we've done with ACL Airshop in that area.
Yeah, thank you, Scott, and thank you, Bob, for having us. One of the things that has been front and center for us as a owner of 56,000 ULDs is the actual physical tagging of the asset. And from the very beginning, one of the biggest challenges that everyone has encountered is the actual pallet tag. The container tags, I can tell you, work perfectly. They're working great. We actually have one customer right now with over 9,000 units tagged right now, and we just ran a sampling to find out, what the operability of these tags are currently. And in the last 90 days, we've only seen 35 units that have not been seen out of 9,000. So that's a really, really good percentage, and that's a really good case study in the performance of the actual container tag. The pallet tag, however, has been a big, big challenge for us and for everybody that's in this space. And it's primarily because the pallets are so exposed. and depending on where you're at in the world, they are treated very poorly. It wasn't a function of the technology itself. It really was the hardware that it was just too exposed and would not allow it to stand the test of time in a cargo environment. So, along with Descartes and a company that we just recently started working with, Trievo out of Italy, we've been jointly working on a new pallet tag. The pallet tag is right now in testing. Scott, I think we have 30 and 30, kind of a 1-to-1 ratio, all
Right.
on 30 pallets. So, when they're read in one location, both tags are reading. Up to this point, we're seeing some really good results. I think we probably are going to run this POC for another 3-4 weeks, and then we'll make the determination on who the winner is. The biggest piece of hardware for us as an organization is how easily can we tag these pallets? Right now, the most effective tag would require it to go into either a repair shop where a section of the rail would be milled out so the tag can go below the surface of the rail, which requires a lot of labor, or it's in the corner, like some of the other tags that we've seen that, it's actually installed in the corner piece of the pallet. And the ones that we're working on are effectively the same size and dimensions as the seat track itself, with a very powerful double-sided tape, and with a scanner, you can scan the barcode on the tag, scan the barcode on the pallet, pair it immediately, and stick it in the rail. So that can be done on the ramp, that can be done live and in charge without having to have any kind of access to a Part 145 or 121 repair shop. And we believe that that is going to be the secret for us to actually put 50,000 tags to work on pallets. And I'm really excited about the progress we've made.
Well, that's interesting, and I mean, I think it's really exciting that you're look like you're going to achieve something on pallets, because what again people don't always understand is that roughly 50% of the world's ULDs are pallets. Maybe it's even a bit more these days, because I know in the last little while the demand for new pallets has been enormous.
Yeah.
Although I think an awful lot of them are sitting in fields in goodness knows where. And secondly, when it comes to ULD losses and ULD tracking and so on, pallets are generally much more commonly lost than containers. They tend to be the ones going off airport to freight forwarders far more than containers. So that's very interesting what you're doing in this area. And I mean, ever since I first got involved in this project, when Air New Zealand first talked about it to me, 4 years ago,
Yeah.
The tag design has always been an ongoing discussion. How best to do it. And so it sounds like you're doing some really great work in this area, and fingers crossed that this does work out well and make a big difference.
Mhm.
So looking ahead a little bit, what would be your and maybe we'll reverse the order here. So Wes, maybe you'd like to go first. What do you think we'll be looking at, say, 12 months or 24 months from now in terms of advancement of this technology? What do you see coming over the horizon?
Bob, I think one of the things that I've always heard you speak about at the various events that we've attended is adoption of innovation, right? As the airlines are more accepting of the technology and adopting the technology, that is the way that we move forward. One of the things that is the end game for us, and we like to call it the Uberization of the ULD world. And we have an application that's called Find My ULD, and it is connected to not only our ULD control software, but also to our system where we also track leased pallets with our existing customers. It provides a forward-facing atmosphere really for the customers who have existing units on lease. It provides an atmosphere where ground handlers can scan a unit or type in the actual ULD number, and it will provide them with the actual customer who is leasing the equipment. And combine that with Bluetooth, because it also provides a Bluetooth environment where all units that are being read by the Descartes network are obviously API'd to our system, and then provides a real-time vision or atmosphere for the customers. The 3-year plan, the forward-facing, even maybe 36 months, Bob, but we're working on this now, which will provide a customer the time that they would actually need a ULD, find themselves short of a ULD, they will be able to open up the application, just like you were at the airport looking for a car, for a ride from the airport with Uber, and you would immediately see how many ULDs are available at your particular airport. You would then be able to select the type of ULD. You would be able to select the quantity, and at that point, it would generate a lease order and a confirmation for the customer and for ACL Airshop. And the Bluetooth piece to me is very exciting here, because not only are we able to use this application, but we do have some background opportunities with not only with Descartes, but with some other advancements that we're making to convert your mobile device into a reader itself. So effectively, you can receive the equipment with your mobile device, and that is a digital signature that you have received the equipment, and the lease then generates. And it's not just about leasing, because it also provides you as the customer or as the airline, where is that particular pallet at any given time, as long as it's in the reader network. So there are almost limitless possibilities, not only with the app, obviously we're excited about that, but using the data that is provided by this network to give many more forward-facing opportunities to end users, even to customers. That where we've said this before, I think 4 years ago when we first started talking with Core, and it's where's my stuff, and I think that at the end of the day, this technology will allow the airlines that maybe are not integrators to play in that space in a growing e-commerce market. Where's my stuff? You can use this particular application and the background technology associated with it to provide that to the end user. So, it may not be 12 months, it may not be 24, it may, but this is a growing. It's almost a snowball effect, I believe, Bob, and I think we're getting there.
Yeah, well, and if I can just jump in, because another side, which is for the cargo terminals, because one of the issues that cargo terminals have told me is they say, yeah, we get all these JG or FF or what are the other common numbers, but and we have no idea who they are. And they all end up sitting in a big pile in the corner. And frankly, when we're short of pallets, we just help ourselves to a few. If the cargo terminal operators are going to be able to also identify, as you mentioned just now, who that pallet or who that container is actually working for at that time, because somebody's paying for it in terms of rental and so on, that will enable the cargo terminal to designate that unit properly and allocate it to that customer. So that's another huge benefit to a big problem. Yeah. So turning to you, Scott, what do you think we're going to see in the next 12, 24, 36 months?
And the side of the business that I came from in Descartes is around the air cargo messaging side of the business. And we wanted to become the world's largest network for exchanging of information between forwarders and carriers. And that led to the expansion to the other participants in the supply chain. And I look at this the same way and say the key is the expansion of this network And then the value of the data goes not only, to your point, Bob, from just the airlines, but to the ground handlers, to the airport authorities, to any of the participants of the supply chain that may need to see where the physical equipment is at. So a lot of our focus has still been around some of the themes I talked about before with expanding the network. And to your comment earlier, Bob, about, these pallets may end up lying who knows where in a portion of the field. We've started to look at and deployed things like solar powered readers to be able to cover areas where there isn't traditional power capacity within the environment. And that in conjunction with a mesh relay network, which in simple terms allows each of these mesh relays and readers to be able to exchange messages within each other and exchange the data to find an available reader that is connected to the cloud. As I think we're all familiar around airports, it's not always the best, let's say, cellular coverage in a particular area. And we'll see readers that will go, offline from losing a cellular connection. With the mesh relay, we now can hop that data to another active reader that's connected to the cloud, and it will upload that data. So there's no latency in the data that's coming up, and there's no loss of data as it goes across the network. So things like that, number one, help the resiliency, but also the expansion of the network. And then to Wes's comment about the mobile applications, with a couple of customers today, we've deployed a mobile application to allow somebody to be able to update or interrogate data from a tag at any point in time. So it can give you that proof of delivery that Wes is talking about, but it can also start to get into the capturing of other data relevant to the shipment. So we've spent a lot of time talking about developing Gen 2 tags in our environment, which not only capture the physical location of the goods, but starts to give you conditions of the goods. So the temperature of the goods, humidity, light within a container can tell you when a container has been opened or not, as well as an accelerometer to see if there's been any instance of jarring. If you imagine if somebody dropped a container on its side, you'd be able to immediately know the physical location at which that took place by the data capture, and know who the party was that was responsible for the goods at that point in time when it was damaged. Would help settle some of those disputes in the future. That, along with things like micro tags that we're working on to do shipment level tracking. So get beyond just the equipment, but start to look at the individual pieces within that shipment. Is become very critical, and those can be reusable tags. So if you're monitoring a high value shipment, that can be used to monitor the shipment all the way to final delivery, get your electronic proof of delivery, and then recycle that tag for another shipment. So many things around that technology. But I think one of the other things is once we have that data capture, there's a lot of other things that we can do with that data. So the application of ULD location into a partner's back office, where they can start to say, I can now update information on the physical location, but also the condition of the goods to a master airway bill or a house airway bill, starts to give more complete end-to-end visibility to customers. And obviously to the, let's say, the air carrier's customer or freight forwarder's customer, it's not just about, to Wes's comment about where's my stuff, but what's the condition of my stuff.
Yeah.
And so being able to piece those together and working with some of our customers on some of the IATA initiatives, and being able to integrate that into some of those projects is really what we'll probably see a lot of over the next 12 months. Is there's lots of value to the data. There's multiple people who can use it, and it's at the tipping point to break away from just a ULD management function. So that's where we see it starting to really expand out as well.
Wow. I mean, what comes to my mind listening to you is so much of ULD management for the last 40 to 50 years has been back of an envelope, tribal knowledge, a few guys who kind of have got a real, and I mean, I could list a couple of dozen guys I've known in the industry over the years who have been ULD managers, which is a thankless task because nobody ever calls you up and thanks you because the flights all got away yesterday, but goodness help you if all of a sudden the flight didn't make it yesterday because there was a shortage of ULD. Just the concept of finally having reliable, timely data that can then be used. I mean, it's just magic. This is a very interesting time. So trying to stay here within the time, but one last question I'd like to pose is, I mean, we're all now very, very, very aware. There are headlines every day about the vaccine programs being rolled out left, right, and center all over the world. This is a logistical challenge second to none. I don't think there's ever been, perhaps the last great logistical challenge of this nature on a somewhat smaller scale was the Berlin airlift. And that was what, 60 years ago, 70 years ago, something like that, using DC-3s. How do you see the role of this technology in supporting this incredible global challenge?
From a Descartes perspective, we've started to work with a couple of our customers to be able to monitor high value shipments, whether that be vaccine or PPE, et cetera, to be delivered to various countries or final destinations. And within the technology today, we're doing it. It's also providing the monitoring of the status and the condition of those goods. So not just where is my vaccine, but what has the temperature been like? Has that container been opened? So we can monitor the things like seeing the light come into the container and say, okay, this is the time and the location at which it was opened, which can be critical for chain of custody of the goods and proof of non-tampering and those things, in addition to just in many of the cases, has the vaccine remained cool enough to still be viable when it gets to the hardest part of the logistics, the last 6 inches into the arm, I think. But I think it's the technology we've been using has already started to get into that environment. I know the crush is on right now for the concern of the quick and efficient delivery of it, and I think a lot of the providers in the space are throwing a lot of resource at this to do it. But now we're saying, hey, with the technology, we can continue to do this, not just now, but for the foreseeable future, when there's still second doses flying around and continued vaccinations in the future. It'll become easier from a technology perspective to be able to track those. Again, back to the point of where's my stuff and what's its condition. It's been pretty exciting times for us to be involved in some of those and see the successful deliveries of vaccines into a country for the first time has been exciting.
Great. Wes, you got anything you'd like to add on that particular subject?
Well, Bob, for us, one of the things that we've, in talking with some of our customers is where they really see our need, in terms of this vaccine is when they start servicing lesser developed countries, right? Where you have a much poor infrastructure, you don't have the road system, you don't have the trucking infrastructure or the rail infrastructure, and I think that's where air cargo from a vaccine perspective is really going to pick up later in the year. For us, one of the things that we're from a technology perspective is we're trying to utilize this not only the Bluetooth technology, but also the ULD control piece that we do have to make sure that the equipment is in the right place when it's asked for, right? So when we know that the deployment is going to start through the conversations that we have with our cargo customers, it's imperative that they have the equipment available to them to hit these parts of the world, and also understand that they may not return, right after the delivery happens. So I think it's important for us to try to leverage this technology as best we can. So we're there for the customers and the cargo operators when they start delivering into some of these third world, areas and whatnot that don't actually have the infrastructure that Europe and more developed parts of Asia and North America.
That's very interesting, and my own observation. I mean, I could see pictures appearing in the media of Envirotainer units arriving in Hong Kong last week. Half the government was out there to applaud its arrival. We had a similar situation. There were pictures yesterday of vaccines arriving in Bangkok. But then I also saw yesterday in the news media a picture, and it was talking about delivering, as you say, this was first under the COVAX program. And there it wasn't an Envirotainer unit. It was styrene boxes on a pallet under a net. And I'm thinking, okay, this is going to be interesting. How are they managing the temperature control? So yeah, I think you're spot on. Anyway, gentlemen, we're probably up against the clock here. We could probably talk on for a couple of hours about these technologies, because there is no question these are fascinating times. As I think I said earlier, it's about 4 years ago, I think, since Air New Zealand first talked to me about these strange tags and put me in touch with the guys down in Nelson in New Zealand, and I started learning about this. But so yes, thank you very, very much for sharing with us, and hopefully maybe in the not too distant future, we'll be able to do this again and see how things are developing. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bob. Thanks, Scott.
Thank you.